friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. For today's video, I have stocked my pencil case full of these lovely green and brown tones because I'm going to be setting up a really beautiful plant-based theme for this month's bullet journal. I'm starting with my Ohuhu double-tipped fine liner that has a brush pen on one side and this really fine tip on the other, and I'm going to be using this as my fine liner throughout this month's setup. By using a brown fine liner instead of the usual black, it makes all the doodles a little bit more warm and less harsh than the usual black fine liner, and that was the vibe I was going for in this month's setup. I wanted everything to feel really warm and cozy, kind of natural and organic. I've already sketched out everything in pencil here, and I'm using this brown fine liner now to trace all of the doodles that I had planned out. And as you can see here, the theme that I've gone with is this really cozy kind of home office desk plant setup. I incorporated a desk with a typewriter on top, I incorporated plants on the side, and I'm also drawing a window. So I've created this scene of kind of home office workspace, kind of really old-fashioned vibes with the typewriter in front of this really gorgeous old-fashioned airy window, and I wanted to just deck the place in houseplants and greenery. Everything gives really kind of warm, lush, organic, and natural vibes. I even added those lampshades on top. I think they really go with the theme and they kind of tie it all together. It's been a little while since I've drawn like a kind of a whole scene as my theme. The past couple months were a little bit more doodly, so I really wanted to do a theme that was like a proper scene, and I wanted to do some kind of more artwork as opposed to just like little or simple doodles. I mean, I like to do a mix in my journals, but I hadn't done something this involved for a while, so I had this kind of idea in mind for a little while now, and I thought March would be the perfect month to do it because of all the greenery that I could incorporate in this theme. I've never actually done a full 2-page art spread like this in my journal, so this was a first for me. I usually would just do the artwork on the cover page on the right and then do something else on the left, like a quote or something more simple. So this was a first for me. I'm so happy with how it's looking. I think it's really, really gorgeous. It was a lot of work, however, of course. This took me like almost 2 hours to do the whole cover page, including the coloring. Just the outlining alone was like almost an hour, I think. So yeah, this was very involved. I don't think it's something I would do every month just because it's very time consuming, but I'm really, really happy with how this is looking, and I was kind of wanting to spend a bit more time on artwork this month because it had been a while, like I mentioned, that I had done such a kind of involved artistic theme like this. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer a simple kind of minimalist doodly theme, or do you like a more involved art heavy theme like this? Now it's time to color, and let me show you the markers that I have for this month's theme. I have my go-to Zebra mild liner pens. I've got the chisel tip one as well as the brush tip set, and then they both have a fine tip on the other side. These are great markers that I really, really love. Of course, I always have my trusty Crayola super tips. These are my go-to. I highly recommend these for beginners because they're super budget friendly, and they have this chisel tip on the end, which can double as a chisel tip and a fine tip. And I have this 50 pack, which I think costs like $12 or something. So highly recommend. For this theme, because I wanted to do something more art heavy and not too simple or doodly, I'm really layering the colors, and I'm working on using multiple shades in all of the doodles. So as you can see on these leaves, it's not just one shade of green. I put a base color as the first shade, and then I go back in with a different shade of green to add some shadows and texture and dimension to the drawings. I forgot to mention earlier, but the other markers that I'm going to be using are these Colors of the World brown tones. These are awesome, and I highly recommend these as well for bullet journaling. They come in a pack of like 12 or 24, I think, of different browns and different skin tones, and these are great for filling in backgrounds, adding a bit of shading without overwhelming your page, and these are going to be perfect tones to complement the greenery and the plants that I have in this theme. I wanted this whole theme to feel really warm and organic, and that's why I went with the brown fine liner. So I'm using lots of different brown tones and coloring a wooden desk here, but just like with the plants, I didn't want to make this two-dimensional or like one-toned, so I'm going back in with different shades of brown now and adding some shadows, adding some grain to the wood to give it a bit of texture, and I think that's helping to make this a more of an involved art piece and not just a two-dimensional doodle. However, of course, this is a lot more work and it did take me a lot of time, probably like an hour to draw it and an hour to color it in, something like that. But I'm so pleased with how this is looking. I was hesitant to use such a strong dark brown on the window panes, but I'm actually really glad I did because it adds a little bit of contrast, and I think the dark wood window pane is really gorgeous and kind of classic and old-fashioned here, and I love the contrast it gives. I'm adding the matching dark wood on the base trim here as well, and I'm just continuing to color everything in my warm brown tones and green tones for the plants. If you guys have been following my channel for a while, or even if you're new here, you may have noticed that I have a new intro in the beginning of this video that doesn't quite match yet the name of my channel at the time that I posted this at least, and I wanted to take a minute and talk to you guys a little bit more about that. I'm planning some really exciting stuff coming up, and I wanted to give my studio a name, and so as you saw, my studio and my channel is going to be named Pico Studio. Maybe in the future, if you guys are curious, I can share a little bit more details about how I came up with this name, what it represents, and what it means to me. But yeah, this is the new name of my art studio and my YouTube channel, so I'm really excited to bring you guys more exciting art under the Pico Studio name now. But it's just a name change. Everything else about my channel is staying the same, still doing the same kind of artwork and bullet journaling, just under a fun new name. Really spurred this on, and I have been trying to think of a name for my studio for a while now, and I just didn't have any good ideas, so I was just using my own name. But what really made me think of a good name for my channel was last year, around last fall before Christmas, I released my 2025 pre-drawn bullet journal planner. This was so insanely popular. I could not believe the support and love and interest that people showed in my planner, and it really made me kind of renewed my interest in bullet journaling and in doodling and making my art available to other people. And so that's what made me want to create a name for my studio and my little small business. And now I'm already deep in the process of actually creating next year's 2026 planner for you guys. And a lot of the themes, spoiler alert, but a lot of the themes that you're seeing in the past few months, including this one, may well be included in my 2026 planner. As I'm working on creating the artwork and the themes for this planner and setting it all up, this is something that I have to complete kind of around the summertime in order to get it printed and have time to do marketing and etc, all the other things I need to do to launch the planner for you guys in the fall. So I need to create all the 12 themes pretty quickly, and so I am open to suggestions. If you guys have any really good ideas for monthly themes, or just any ideas in general, what would you guys like to see in a pre-drawn bullet journal planner, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your suggestions and ideas. I think I did such an amazing job. I was so happy with last year's planner, but there's always room for improvement, and I would just love to hear your guys' thoughts and ideas of what you would like to see in your pre-drawn planner for next year. So I'm using one of the lightest shades of those Colors of the World markers that I showed you guys earlier to just color in the entire background, and I think this step was really key in kind of completing the entire spread as sort of one cohesive scene instead of just doodles on their own. And yeah, I think this really tied it all together, and it tied the two pages together as well. And then to finish it off, I'm gonna add a brown floor. I wanted to do like a hardwood floor, so I used a darker brown here to contrast with the wall. And then I went back to that brown fine liner again, and I just added like floorboards and a bit of texture to make it look like a wood grain floor. I'm adding a little bit of color to the lamps here and just adding a little bit of shading below each lamp in a really warm yellow to keep with the warm tone theme. And then I realized my window in the front was like really kind of sticking out because of the white, and I didn't want what's outside the window to be the focus, so I just added a little bit of kind of general foliage here. And that is finally it for this month's cover page spread. 2 hours later, I'm ready to move on to the next spread, which is the calendar page. If you guys have been following my channel, you know that I've gotten really into doing a full 2-page calendar every month now. I actually use it a lot and find it really useful when I haven't set up the weekly spreads yet. I can just plan things out in here and then transfer it to the weekly spreads when I've done that. I had a really interesting idea of making the calendar into a window pane in the same style as the window pane that I drew on the cover page. So I added those finishes here, but guys, I'm so dumb. I made a huge mistake that I literally didn't realize until I was editing this video, but March starts on a Saturday, so I'm missing a day here. So to be honest, I'll probably just ignore it because it doesn't fit in here anyways, and it looks so perfect as is, but I'll just have to like write a little bit in the top next to the word March, I guess, on the first day. I don't know. I just totally missed that, so I'll just start this calendar on March 2nd, I guess. And yeah, I'll just roll with that. I'm speeding through the video a little bit here because you guys have already seen me color the entire cover page, and I'm pretty much using the same styles and techniques as I used on the cover page and adding at least 2 tones to every doodle to add some shadows and texture. And yeah, pretty much doing really similar doodles as I did on the cover page. I think this page looks so cute, and I wanted to do the same thing in the end of adding the plaid carpet here as well as the hardwood floors and the wall color. I think it really tied everything together, and yeah, still annoyed that I missed the first day of March, but I guess it is what it is. I'll just make it work during the month. On the next page, I'm going to be creating my trackers, so I have my habit tracker on the left and I'll have the mood tracker on the right. The saddest thing happened here. Look what happened to my pen. I don't know if you can tell, but the nib has like split in 2, and I was wondering why it was giving me funny lines when I was drawing on the page. It's because it's become 2 small nibs, so I had to kind of draw really carefully now and kind of drag it in such a direction that it wouldn't split more, if that makes sense. I don't know if this is a common occurrence. I haven't actually used the fine tip of these sort of markers very much. Generally, I've had really good experiences with these Ohuhu fine liners, so maybe it's just this one. And to be fair, this is the marker that I've used the most, as I've used it as a fine liner in this setup and another one before as well. But yeah, I was so sad, and honestly it still worked pretty well. I just had to be really careful with how I was using it, so it made it a little bit more difficult to use. But like the ink was still flowing and stuff, so yeah. But I was able to still use it more or less okay here. I wanted to do that window again. Oh yeah, this is what it looked like at the end of this page. So it was not doing great, and I was kind of trying to like push it back in, but yeah, the damage was definitely done. I thought the window was super cute from the cover page though, so I added it here. I was showing my cousin my setup for March and how happy I was with the window, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love the window. You could draw like someone looking in or like a cat in the window. And I thought that was just so clever and so creative. It had not even occurred to me for 1 second to draw something or someone in the window. So I was like, that is such a good idea. I didn't do it for this spread, but I think it'd be so cool to see what other people drew or added in the window. So let me know in the comments, what would you add, if anything, in the window if this was your bullet journal setup? I went pretty all out on the right side with the mood tracker. I drew little doodles for every single day, and I'm just gonna color in the shelves now in that same brown tone, and I just went over my coloring a few times to get that shading, and then I'm gonna assign different greens for each mood, so I'll be coloring it in greens on the right hand side. For the habit tracker space, I just left it really simple with 3 habits and the empty boxes. I was way too lazy to write all the dates, so I just leave it empty for this month, and then I'm just gonna color in the windows and the doodles in the same way that I colored in the cover page. Lastly, for this monthly setup, let's create the first weekly spread. The first week of March is only one day, a Saturday, so I'm gonna do 8 days on one spread and call it a day for the weekly spread. After all this setup and like the hours I've spent on the art, I was kind of done with drawing and setting up for this month. So this spread has no art, just super simple. I did these rounded boxes for the days of the week and a rounded box for each kind of area where I'm gonna write, and I did 4 on each side. I'm gonna color in the top in green, and that's pretty much it. Super simple. This was super quick to set up, and maybe I'll add more art in the following weeks on the other pages, but for this week I think this is enough. I'm using this really nice calligraphy font. I think it contrasts well with the kind of typewriter font I used on the cover page. I'm just writing that in the brown fine liner, which was really struggling at this point, but I made it work. And then I decided to color in the background with that same kind of really light beige tone that I used on the other pages, kind of tie it all together. And that's it for this weekly spread. And that is all for my March monthly setup. I hope you guys loved watching me set this one up as much as I love looking at it now. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I can't wait to share with you guys the rest of the spreads that I come up with this month. See you guys next month.